There is a thing called power of place I honestly and truly believe in, and I think that has an impact on people. Once you experience the power of place in a national park unit, whether it's cultural, historical, natural, or whatever it is, you have been bitten.
About the only thing I ever did that was really smart was to go out into the desert and pick a darn good ruin and sit down by it for 30-odd years. Frank Pinkley.
In 1900, a 19-year-old Missourian, a former jeweler's apprentice named Frank Pinkley, arrived in Arizona under doctor's orders to find a dry climate because he was susceptible to tuberculosis. A year later, for lack of other applicants, he found himself in charge of Casa Grande National Monument in Arizona, a 4-story adobe ruin of the ancient Hohokam civilization that had flowered in the Southwest 1,000 years earlier. As custodian of the ruins and its 480 acres, Pinkley lived in a tent he pitched nearby, dug his own well, and began carrying out his duties, which consisted primarily of preventing vandals from looting the artifacts and keeping stray cattle out of the site. A few years later, he married his wife Edna and built a shelter over his tent for them to live in. After the birth of their 2 children, he used his own money and any materials he could scrounge to construct a ramshackle adobe house, earning his family the nickname, the Ruined Pinkleys. Money for improvements seldom arrived, except for a barn-like roof to keep rain off the 1,000-year-old adobe. But Pinkley didn't complain. He stabilized the old walls to keep them from collapsing, happily wrote his own brochures publicizing Casa Grande, and loved nothing better than providing personal guided tours to the few visitors who showed up. "Did you build this ruin?" one visitor asked Pinkley's son. "No, sir, I didn't," the boy answered, "but my father did."
There really was not much left of the Hohokam enclave, but you would think you were gazing at one of the 7 wonders of the world to see the affection and pride Pinkley had in his moldering ruins. It was beyond belief. He pointed out every spot that had been restored, every plan he had to complete his dream. To him, it appeared a true Casa Grande, a magnificent house of the noble Hohokam rising toward the sun, not a melting mound of clay as we saw it. Horace Albright.
Horace Albright and Stephen Mather, founders of the newly created National Park Service, had been so impressed by Pinkley's dedication and drive that when the Grand Canyon became a national park in 1919, they considered him for the plum appointment of superintendent. But Pinkley said he preferred to stay at Casa Grande. They let him keep the job he loved and asked him to oversee all of the other national monuments in the Southwest as well. Each year, he loaded his family into an old Model T and embarked on an inspection tour covering Arizona, New Mexico, and parts of Colorado and Utah. He would travel to an increasing number of monuments under his supervision, 14 at first, then more than 25, checking in with each one's custodian, oftentimes a lonely volunteer, being paid just $1 a month, offering friendly advice on how to do their work more professionally, and always boosting their morale with his folksy encouragement.
About the only satisfaction we can dig out of this situation is that when it came to making real savings, to making $1 do the work of 2 or 3, to doing without necessities, they certainly came to the right outfit when they came to us.
In deference to his leadership, the men under his supervision called him the boss. Then Edna died in 1929, but Pinkley soldiered on in her absence with their 2 children. Struck by a heart attack 8 years later, he kept on working despite his diminished health. National monuments, he told his custodians, were held together with binding twine and baling wire. So was the boss.
The boss epitomized esprit de corps. I often have said that the National Park Service is the Marine Corps of the civilian agencies. A commitment to what they do, a pride in what they do, a burning pride in the uniform, and the boss was all of that, and he exuded it.
The badge can symbolize the service and identify the wearer to the park visitor. But the uniform can do more than that. It can build morale and prestige. Morale in the man who wears it, and prestige in the eyes of the public, when it is worn by the right men.
After more than 35 years on the job, Pinkley finally convinced his superiors to fund a conference for his far-flung and poorly paid employees, a chance for them to meet each other and share ideas about the jobs they did. He gathered his men together at Casa Grande under strict orders that they wear their uniforms, and on the opening morning delivered a speech he had wanted to give them in person for many years.
I think you will all understand that this is one of the red-letter days in my life. It was in December 1901 that I started down the lonesome trail, which has finally led to today, and this room, and these co-workers. The idea behind our organization...
But he finally got permission to hold his superintendent's conference. And he stood before them, and he gave this speech that he had prepared. And people who were there tell me there was a jerk in his step, and they could tell something was wrong. The boss gave his speech and died with his boots on, in front of the people that he loved so, doing the thing he loved best.
Pinkley's men decided to complete the 3-day conference anyway, and sat for a formal photograph, taken with his empty chair in the middle. Then they conducted his funeral service, not in a traditional church, but on the grounds of his beloved Casa Grande National Monument. They were sure the boss would have wanted it that way.